Okay guys, for this tutorial we're going to be doing Hurt Feelings by Mac Miller. We're going to be recreating the beat. So if you want to listen to that on your streaming service, whatever you use, it's really only 6 seconds of a beat and then that's repeated throughout the song. So check that song out, Hurt Feelings by Mac Miller. Listen to it and then here is my recreation of that. So first things first, in this beat, we're going to be going through the drums. So let me open up these drums. I am using 808 Flex. If you guys want to use the same instruments as me, I'm just using the 808 Flex kit on Logic stock. So just go and open up a new software instrument with Command Option S or go press the plus sign and then go enter your 808 Flex. Press I to see the inspector window, and then let's go into the drums. So I mapped all of these to my pad so I can more easily play the drums that I'm hearing. I'm just using kick 1, right? So my input for this bottom left pad is G sharp 1, so I found kick 1 and I mapped it to G sharp 1 by just like that. So if you find a sample you like, say it's a tom, you can just go to the input, G sharp 1, and then it'll play from that pad. So I've got this one, I've got my snare, which is snare 2, so kick 1, snare 2, and then for my beat, I made my own hat shaker sound, which sounds like this, because that sounded more close to the record for me. But essentially, we're just going to be using the presets in here to make it a little easier here. So first off, let's map the hi-hats. Let's do hi-hat pedal. I'm just going to click this sample. I'm going to click this right here and just drag it down to tune it down a little bit. So now it sounds like a little bit closer to what I want. I want this to map to A1. So I'm going to map this clap away from A1 so nothing is happening on my trigger. I'm going to go back to this hi-hat pedal, map that to A1. There we go. Now I also want a shaker sound there because I'm kind of hearing that a little bit. So I'm just going to go into the sample. I just kind of keyed it down as much as I could in this program. So I'm going to go to C1, find A1. Great, now I have these two things happening. It's still quite not where I want it, so I'm going to click the shaker, go to slice, and cut off some reverberation there, just the tail end of the sample. Right, that's pretty good. I'm going to go in here into hi-hat pedal, and I'm going to kind of do the same thing, go into slice, and cut off a little bit. That sounds about right to me. So we're going to be using that for the hi-hat. So we've got kick 1, snare 2, and then I'm mapping hi-hat pedal and shaker to just my drum pad, which is A1. Your drum pad will be different. So just hit the pad you want to have the right sound and map the samples you want to go to that particular input there. So if it says like, I don't know, C3, then find the sample you want and map it to C3, right? Wherever it's at for you. Okay. So now we've got the drums happening. I'm going to go into the drums with the E window. Just click E to open up your edit window. And let's talk about just the kick to start off. Make sure your metronome's on, by the way. So press K. Okay, so first off, when we're doing rhythm, the metronome is just doing quarter notes. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. If I want to do eighth notes, it's going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If I want to do 16th notes, it's going to be 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. If I want to do 32nd notes, so you're just putting a duh in between the 1 E and a's because that's 16ths. So 1 duh, E duh, and duh, duh. So that's super fast. We are dealing with that once with a kick. So let's just plug these in here. So first off, you've just got the kick happening on 1 and then the and of 2. So it just sounds like this if I take out the snares. And this is all you need to make for the kick. You can just zoom in here as much as you need to. I'm just doing it in the first section. I've got it on 1, the end of 2. So 1, 2, and. And you can just straight up copy this if you want to. Just look at my MIDI here and just copy it. The one thing you're going to have trouble with is this, which I'll get to. So 1, 2, and, E, and, up, and, So get that first, right? So just make sure that your kick is kind of copying this pattern. Right? Make sure that sounds right. That's for the first section. The second section sounds like this. And then we just repeat that. So the second section, we're going to go 1 and. So 1 and. Ba-da-bum. So these are 30-second notes. So the way you draw those in, just going to draw in with my pencil tool. I'm going to go in like this. Draw 3 things. I'm going to put this in between them like this. I'm going to highlight them all. Go into your time quantize here. You have 16th notes set by default. Click 30-second notes. Then you have it kind of quantized to 30-second notes. So now I'm going to put it back to 16th notes. Cool. So the second section is 1 and ba-bum, ba-ba-bum, ba-bum. So that whole kick, a little complex. Check out this MIDI and try to copy it on your session and get it to sound right. After the kick, we have the snare drums. So the snares are super easy. If I just wanted to record them, it's just on the 2 and the 4. So I'm going to record those from the top. 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now I just got those snares in. Q. Okay, now they're quantized. Okay, so I got the snares, we've got the kick happening. Now we're going to add the hat shaker, which we mapped. So let's listen to see what that sounds like. So what's happening there is we got 1 and 2 EN, 3 and 4 EN, 1 and 2 EN, 3 and 4 EN. So I'm going to go ahead and record that with my metronome. 1, 3, 4. So 1 and 2 EN, 3 and 4 EN, 1 and 2 EN, 3 and 4 EN. Okay, so I just recorded that in. You don't have to record it in if you want to draw it in. Quantize all of it. Obviously, that's a little loud, so what you can do is you can click this arrow, and it'll explode your drums out like this. Press E to get rid of that, and I'm just going to play. My hi-hat is here, so I'm going to just lower the volume a little bit. Let me find the shaker here as well. I'm going to just lower the volumes. That sounds a little better to me. So I just lowered the volume just a little bit on both of those instruments. So now we've got just the drums happening. Okay, so now the next one is going to be the 808 bass. So let's check out what's going on here in the MIDI. For my 808, I just made an instrument track and I went and clicked an 808. Or you can make an instrument track and then click an 808. I have my own custom one that I built from a YouTube video showing how to make the original Roland 808. I will link that if I press X. I can go onto my 808 and I can see I've added distortion and I've added compression. Distortion gives it some tone. If I take the distortion off, it'll sound like this. And the compression. Really hard to hear, right? But if I add distortion, now it's a little loud. Add compression. So the compression can actually bring up some of the higher end frequencies, which is what we want, because you're not really going to be able to hear an 808 on an iPhone or any type of phone speakers because they don't have sub speakers. They only have kind of tweeters and higher end speakers. So what you want is to add some distortion to give some higher end to the 808 so you can hear it on a phone or anywhere. And so distortion and compression helps with that because the compressor is going to bring up the quieter, higher frequencies. The notes for the 808 are C, then D, and then C again, and then D again, and then you have G happening, then you got this C to C sharp, back to C. Those are the notes for the 808. So we've got the 808, we've got the drums. Now let's listen to this classical acoustic guitar. This is kind of just what I heard. I supplemented this with this synthesizer, but just by itself, this is what the classical guitar sounds like. Now we're going to get the notes for the guitar. So the notes for the guitar, I kind of had them offset like this because it mimics a person strumming the guitar. That's repeated for the whole song. So what we have here in terms of chords, if we're thinking about the bass, the guitar is like a C minor 9 to a D minor, so it's changing keys, which is super cool. But essentially, the notes you have for the first chord are going to be E flat, G, and D. So E flat, G, and D. It'll say D sharp. That means E flat. They're enharmonic. So D sharp, G, D. Do you see where it says pitch? When I'm clicking and holding the note, you can see where it says pitch. So I've got D sharp, G, and a D. And that's going to be for one beat. For that first chord, we're just going to go 1, 2. Those notes happen twice, like 1, 2. And the MIDI looks like this. On the second chord, we have F sharp, A, D, F sharp, A, and D. That's going to happen on the end of 2. So 1, 2, and then so it's and of 2, and of 3. So 1, 2, and. So you're just going to go and of 2, and of 3, and of 4. And then we have the last chord, which is DFA. And that lasts for 4 beats. These are basically whole notes. So 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it for the classical guitar notes. Okay, so I automated that. I did a lot of automation with EQ. If I just turn off my automation, you just got a classical guitar. If I press X to go into my mix window, I've got a lot of stuff on this. Compressor, channel EQ, flanger, distortion, all that stuff. You can just get a stock classical acoustic guitar. Just go make a new software instrument and type in classical acoustic guitar. Or you can just make a new software instrument, click guitar, go into classical acoustic guitar, and then there it is. I added a flanger on it because it made it sound kind of spacey. So if I turn off the flanger, that's the sound. If I turn it on, right, kind of cool. So essentially what I did here is I made a channel EQ in my plugins by pressing X. So I pressed A for automation, went into this menu, and then I went to 7-channel EQ, and I found high cut frequency. Okay, and I clicked that, which is this. And then I just kind of drew the automation that I was hearing in the song. So essentially what this is doing, and I can even show you as it does it, is it's changing the band on this EQ. I start it. You can hear that, right? And so if I couple that with this synthesizer, because I thought it sounded pretty good, I just basically copied the notes from the classical acoustic guitar and I put them onto this Calm and Storm stock synthesizer. And I did the exact same thing. I went to the Calm and Storm stock synthesizer here. I put a channel EQ on it. I opened up the automation. I went here, channel EQ, high cut frequency. And then I just drew in the exact same thing that I have for the guitar. So I'm only going to do it with this one block, and then I'm just going to repeat what I do. So that way I don't have to do it 17 times. Okay, click this, Command R. Yeah, so in this synth, it's kind of a little weird. So I went into the synth by pressing I, go into the synth alchemy, go into advanced. There is a harmonics option right down here. I turn that down to like 6. And so now we've kind of got continuing on from there. There's kind of this like whoosh, wishy sound that sounded really cool when I was listening to the song, and I couldn't really place the instrument at first, and I figured out that it is chimes, like tree chimes. So if you ever see like a marching band or an orchestra perform, there's always some guy in the auxiliary instruments like doing drums and stuff who might hit chimes, like whoosh, just run his hands across them, and it gives this shimmery sound. That is called tree chimes. Those are called tree chimes. So I had to look that up, but I figured it out. I just went and made a new software instrument, looked up chimes, and I clicked chimes, and then that's what I used. You can see I kind of like in the MIDI here, I'm just going at it because I wanted to have a lot of sustain for those instruments, just like this. Right? I also kind of took the sample and pitched it up a whole bunch, as you can see here, because this is a sampler. So I took the audio from chimes, new software instrument, chimes. Took the audio from chimes. So I just click this. Right? All I did was record that. first I'm going to just bounce this in place. So you could just right click, bounce and join, and then it makes a new audio track. Then you've got this, which is what we want to use. So you can go ahead and delete this one now. Then you're going to make a new software instrument, make it a sampler. Find your sampler, make it a quick sampler, a single sampler, so that you can move your note around. So just put that in here. There you go. And just cut out a part you want. So let's do, I don't know, that. Yeah, that sounds great. So all I did was kind of make that. I went into the mix window on this new instrument, and I added some reverb to it, because this is the one that I did before. I added some distortion, some channel EQ, and some spacey reverb to make it sound extra cool. But yeah, that's how I got that specific chime sound. Again, you can just use the stock chime sound. That's totally fine. Just make sure you add some reverb to it on the mix window. Again, press X, go into channels, click one of those bars, find reverb, and there you go. So the last thing I did was add white noise, because that kind of put it all together for me. And white noise couples without those chimes to be like, oh, right? What I did to make the white noise is I made a new software instrument, went into it, clicked Alchemy, go into Advanced, File, Initialize Preset, click this A over here, turn on noise, right? And it says white. Turn off that oscillator. Then if I click a key, it's super loud. So, I mean, just turn it down a lot. Right? And then I just recorded it. I just recorded me, like, playing. And then I went into automation. I put an EQ just like the other one. So I pressed X. I went into my white noise and my chimes. I added an EQ, channel EQ to both of them. Then you could just go into this menu right here. Channel EQ, high cut frequency, just like before. And then you draw in kind of a similar thing as what this is doing, right? So I just kind of drew in this sweep. So again, if I click white noise, I want to see what the EQ is actually doing. So it kind of comes up really quick, like whoosh, just like that, right? So you get kind of this trippy effect with that. But that's pretty much everything that I added to this song. So we've got 808 flex. There's just a kick, a snare, and some shaker hi-hats combined. Then we have an 808 bass with some added distortion. And to make it sound really tight, I've drawn in these notes with the rhythm of the bass. Again, you don't have to do that, but you can. And then we have the notes for classical guitar. We've got the calm and storm, the chimes, the white noise, and that is it for this beat today. So all together. Not too bad. Okay, let me know if you guys have any questions or requests for more songs. Thank you very much and have a good day.